We'll turn it on. Good morning, it's 10 o'clock and we're calling the special meeting of the R&I committee to order. We have a quorum. I think we're missing, are we missing anybody? 1, 2, 3, 4, nope, we're all here. Okay, we're all here. We have, I don't have a chairperson's report. Do we have any ad hoc subcommittee reports? No one has a subcommittee report. Okay, I'm going to put on a future agenda item. Dan, I do need an update on where everybody is at the next meeting, because following our next meeting, we're going to have a strategic plan update. And I need to report the progress of the ad hoc committee. Does anybody have a committee member communication? Anything regarding an announcement, your activities, or any questions for clarification? No. Okay. Do we have any public comment? Let me check the attendees. We only have one attendee and they don't have a hand raised, so we don't have any public comment. Did you get any written public comment?
No, I did not get any written public comment.
Okay,
Recording in progress.
we can move on to regular business. Mr. D'Anzo, this is your discussion and consideration of agreement for consultant services and cost estimates with Cannon Engineering for the San Simeon Water Main and Effluent Line Replacement Project, and for us to approve the recommendations to refer the project and the necessary budget adjustment to the Finance Committee. Take it away.
Thank you, Chair Dean. So, as you know, how we got to this point is, we sent out the proposals as I shared in previous meetings. And after staff had reviewed all of the proposals, it came to a point, there were 3 qualified proposals. It came to a point where we realized that interviews were,
My screen shows you're muted.
I should be muted.
Oh, you should be.
Yeah, because
It'll be coming through on the owl.
yeah,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
coming through the out.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, we get feedback if I were in. So, where was I?
Sorry.
So we got to a point where we realized that interviews were appropriate for us to make an appropriate decision for, for choosing the consultant. So, and at that time, we had also recommended that one person from the R&I committee would join our interview panel, because we had staff, myself, Kristen, and Jim were the ones that were evaluating and are going to be working with the consultant moving forward. But we wanted to have another voice and more eyes and ears to be able to see, and be able to ask questions. And we thought it was appropriate to have someone from the R&I committee to be able to join our panel. Derek Williams was originally appointed to the panel, but due to a conflict of interest, he was unable to participate. And at that time, we made a decision that Mark Meeks was a good stand-in for the situation, to join our panel, and Mark contributed really well. He asked some really good questions that sometimes when we get too technically focused, there's other questions that could be asked that Mark was able to ask. So he joined our evaluations. We had a discussion after all the interviews were conducted, and we had a unanimous consensus to approve Cannon Engineering as the consultant of choice. Their proposal is before you, is in your packet. It's available for those online to be downloaded, with the packet, of course. They have really good both engineering and a good environmental team that's able to work on the project and is available. And they have really good, solid project experience with pipelines specifically, and also public works, and also with projects along the coast. So their agenda is before you today. One of the recommendations that we have before you is that we want your recommendation to move forward in awarding Canon Engineering the project. But we also will need your recommendation to refer the project and the necessary budget adjustments to the finance committee. Because we budgeted for the next year's budget for this to be $500,000. We were thinking that the design and environmental permitting was going to cost that much. Oh, Tyler. So we we recommend that once we have your approval to refer the project, and then because we will need like the extra 585. You know, as the cost proposal is 585 and some change. So which is above the 500,000 that we budgeted for. We have the money within water reserves to be able to absorb the extra costs, but we will definitely need a budget adjustment to formalize that. Things I want to highlight. Page 12, I believe, is where the project schedule is. Oh, and I want to introduce Larry Kramer to you all. Good morning. Yeah, Larry Kramer is the principal engineer for Canon that will be working on the project. Oh, and also Michael Gilbert, he will be the project manager. So y'all can ask your questions in person to the main team players. Thank you all for being here in person. So yeah, I wanted to direct you all to just because you know this is a question that's going to be asked about the project schedule. And page 12 is where if you want to do this, agenda packet, that the page numbers are all on there. And so, okay. And so as you can see, this is gonna last, you know, through this year, the remainder of this year, and also all of next year, all of 2024, because there are environmental constraints and permitting that we would need to do, and lots of coordination with all of the agencies that, you know, of note within our coastal projects. Coastal Commission will be involved, county will be involved, no doubt Fish and Game, or Fish and Wildlife, I should say, would be involved with the project, and state parks will also be involved with the project, as we will be working with them to finalize like a revised easement, should we choose to go through the property again. So, and plus the appropriate environmental studies that will need to be done, you know, to even get, you know, our geotechnical investigations and our surveying investigations to be done. So that's why it's going to take this year, the remainder of this year and all of next year. And the anticipated construction date is May of 2025. So, and you know, the actual construction period is only going to be estimated at 5 months. So there's a lot of lead into that to do the construction. And you know, it was one of those things where they're going to be involved in all these facets of the project, and even through construction, since they will also be the designers of the project. And so they appropriately are going to handle all of the bidding services and all the construction-based services. Question? Yeah.
You're talking about this schedule and being in the permitting phase being a little over a year.
Yeah.
What is that? That's assuming a certain type of construction that we're going to use.
It's not so much dictated by the type of construction, although that will have a factor in it. It's these, most of these agencies have a really long review period. And so, you know, the way our schedule's set up is we have to do a preliminary design. And in that preliminary design, we'll look at alignments, we'll look at the different methods that we're gonna propose. And we'll come up with a preferred approach based on a lot of the things that we're gonna come up with on the biological and botanical side, as well as archaeological resources. So all those constraints will come up with a preferred alignment. And that will go into the permitting process with that preferred alignment and method. And it'll be chosen, the method will be chosen based on those constraints and making the path of least resistance to get through those regulatory agencies.
Would you anticipate slip lining or a flexible, one of those flexible liners as a viable approach?
It is when you, and whenever you put another pipe inside another pipe, you lose a little bit of capacity depending on
But you might gain some friction loss. So
Yeah,
we need to do those hydraulic calculations to see if that's even viable. But I just wanted to make sure that that was on the bench, because that could really curtail a lot of permitting and a lot of costs and a lot of time.
Yes.
If it is even a viable, it just seemed attractive, an attractive approach for that reason, you know,
Yeah, one of the things we were thinking of.
as opposed to drilling.
Yeah. But you're probably thinking of the same thing, is you got two pipelines, two assets, two pathways right now. Could you use, maybe you only have to replace one and use one of the existing ones as a liner to, there's half the cost, right? Or,
And then the existing water line, temporary water line now could be used while one is down. We could repurpose that as needed.
exactly, yeah.
And then recycle or sell that material. When it's, in your proposal would include removing that line as well, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So something I forgot to mention is that one of the deliverables will be the alternatives analysis.
Yeah.
For this, and so that's where all of these ideas will be vetted, see, and you know. And it doesn't have to be one solution either. It could be, there could be a slip lining solution and a directional drilling
Exactly.
solution. So,
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
all of that will be vetted through the alternatives. But yeah, let's lead into some questions. Yeah, any other questions?
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Steve?
Are these three routes that you're proposing the only ones? Or is there any other possibilities?
I think before we get started, if there are ideas on that we should explore, we can certainly switch them out. So
Have you considered going where this Washburn day use area is? There's a road there that goes across to the connection point that would shorten that Caltrans route quite a bit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Have you looked at that?
I think all three
We
proposals
did
have
talk
pretty
about
close
it,
to
yeah.
same alignments.
Yeah.
There's really only three real viable options, I think. You know, as far as alignment goes, and they were all pretty close, I think.
Yeah, there's the options in the proposal where, you know, your common, you know, type of solutions for this project. It doesn't mean that that's all we're gonna do. It doesn't mean that that's all we're gonna look at. We did talk about, you know, that what you just said there, Stephen,
Okay.
about Washburn. There are a lot of, there are a lot of constraints to that right now, especially since that bridge is not even able to be used, shut down, so. But yeah, there are other solutions, even things that we haven't talked about here yet.
And I've on other projects seen alignments change based on archaeological findings and biological findings. So, and that will be coming early on, so that might it might present an alternative none of us have thought about yet, so.
Okay. Any other questions? I have a member of the public that, oh, go ahead.
I've
Derek.
got a question. It's a good proposal. The schedule to get to the final design seems fairly aggressive to me, actually, and that's a kind of a good thing. But it seems to me that there are some, we're going through final design as we're doing some of the permitting, as we're doing some of the environmental geotechnical work, things like that. The question actually for Mr. Dienzo is, anything, how much risk is the district taking on that because we're still doing studies as the final design's being done, there will be changes as we go and needing to extend the time and effectively having a cost increase because of that. Are you fairly comfortable that because we know the area, there aren't going to be that many changes necessary?
Yeah, there are definitely risks
Yeah.
to, and, yeah, a lot of these, we go with what we know at the moment. And if there are, we have mitigated, possible, delays if that's the case. Because some of these studies are going to be needed for the construction phase that, we can still move forward with the design and finishing it up.
Okay.
But no, we definitely, I thought that, all of next year is actually, and actually like most of 2025 even is part of the design and permitting phase. Really, I think what Larry already touched on, the part that we really can't control is how long the review process is going to take. So,
So is the cost estimate that we're looking at, if all of these studies and everything that the agencies are requiring to take us longer and we extend beyond the timeline that's scheduled here, is the cost going to go up significantly?
I wouldn't say significantly.
Okay,
I think the biggest cost would be kind of ongoing meetings, regular recurring meetings that we'd be having. Yeah.
okay, and then is this paid per phase, or is it all up front at once?
It's
How
per
is this
phase,
split?
yeah.
It's per
Like for example, if for some reason, like the construction is gonna be beyond what we can do, meaning cost wise, that some or all of that might need to be put on hold. But yeah, well, as we will, we would have to stop the contract at that point and then, think about it, but we haven't crossed that bridge yet. So,
Okay,
yeah, but those are the possibilities and should we go that route? Yeah.
Are you going, or do you plan on competitively bidding the construction phase, whatever that may be?
Mhm.
You will competitively bid that? And I have,
You might want to pre-qualify as, given if it comes to a directional drill solution, we would recommend that you pre-qualify some of these larger, it's going to be a long bore, so you don't want somebody that hasn't done that
Yeah.
before to get in there, so potentially some pre-qualification.
we meaning
The district.
the district, really? They have to be pre-qualified through us?
Mhm.
Can you explain the role of Hamner and Jewel Associates?
Yeah, so
Okay,
in the event, we changed out of the existing easement. And you need to, and you're gonna negotiate another easement with, say, state parks. Hamner and Jewel would help appraise the cost of that easement. So that's their role, is really as an appraiser.
okay. Eric, you had a question?
Quick one that I know nothing about. Is an M&D appropriate for the third alternative also, a place where we don't have an easement already? Is it, I don't know, is it more difficult to get a mitigated neg deck on somewhere where you don't have an easement? My question is, if we go with the third alternative, is the CEQA process going to be much more complicated?
I wish I could answer that question. I wish our secret consultant was sitting here, because I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know the answer to that. Good question.
I imagine that will just be taken into account when we look at the three alternatives of whether that will be a much more difficult sequel. Okay.
Yeah, that's part of the alternatives analysis.
And Ray, for you, at what point do sort of the progress on this come back to this committee and to the board? Is it before you decide on a final alignment? At what points do we hear back on how this is going?
So in the milestone points, like, every time there's a deliverable, we will present that before this committee. And if there's any kind of cost changes, we would bring that to the finance committee. And then, of course, and if it's a big enough change, then it'll go before the board. So, no, my intention is every deliverable milestone we will present before you and get your input on it.
Okay, go ahead. Anybody else?
I asked that because if you're gonna present it to more than one committee, there's a timing issue. We only
Yeah, and
meet
that's
every
built
so
into
often,
this.
right?
Yeah.
We
Okay.
can always call a special
Special
meeting.
meeting.
Like
Special meeting.
today's a special
Right,
meeting.
you're a special.
Special
Okay,
project.
got it.
Alan, you had a question?
Not to jump too far ahead, but when construction would be done, is that a summer project? Are you limited months that you can work out there?
It's, I would say highly likely.
Yes. So you finish up your project, if it happens to overlap too close, so you wouldn't start construction till the following summer? Or, I mean, do they want to start and stop and
It'll be a continuous, once they start, they'll finish and likely it would be after June 1st. I think there's a lot of requirements not working within certain mating and seasons.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking it for our secret person, but generally the projects we work on, the mitigated negative decks are limited. We could have to start after June 1st and we have to be done and by October 15th, roughly. So that's what we anticipate. We'll finish our design. The design is not the critical path here, in my opinion. It's really the permits. And then that construction window, trying to time it all so that we hit that window. So we would start in June of 2025 and then be done by that fall. That's our goal.
Okay, Mark asked some questions about a liner in the pipe. Were you talking about a liner in the pipe or using the existing pipe as a liner to a new pipe?
No, it's inside the existing pipe, so it's
Okay.
a liner. Sort of a remediation, but not really. It's actually a new pipe, but we're using the old pipe basically as a conduit.
Okay, the effluent line right now, that's a concrete pipe.
Yes, a combination of ACP and
Okay, so we're talking about replacing that as well. Because it has the same chance of a problem that our.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, so. My question is, what do we do while this construction is going on? Because if you're, well, I'm assuming you would run a new effluent line and then just switch it over, so that wouldn't be too much time there. But if you're gonna run a liner through the existing pipe, you're not gonna be using that pipe while you're doing it. So are we gonna go back to relying on SR4? Will the San Simeon wells be offline while you're doing that? I
Okay,
mean, yeah.
I'll answer this. So so I don't want to get too much into the weeds on this because we're talking about a construction phasing at this point.
Okay,
And we remember, we have that existing line that's out there.
right.
And we plan to utilize that as part of the cutover phasing, when we're working on this line, we'll use this pipe. And then when we're using on this line, we'll use this pipe, whatever it is. There are bypass options and the good thing about it is we do have that existing line that's out there right now. That is meant to only be there temporarily.
Okay.
So, but that is part of the construction phasing that we will consider.
My-
And that's a 12-inch line, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, my question was, what, do you have a bypass thing if we're going to use that pipe and put a liner in it?
It's the same thing would apply.
Yeah,
to
I don't think, right now, I don't think we would need to use SR4 even. I think we can keep everything running even as we're constructing this project.
That was mainly, is this gonna take the San Simeon wells offline while you're doing part of this? That was my
Yeah,
question.
there's going to be, like, when we actually cut over to the new line, there will be a period of like a week there
Okay.
where we do our proper disinfection of the line and
Yeah.
stuff like that, so.
Right.
Okay. Anybody else? We'll go to the member of the public. Let me unmute Crosby and Laura. And go ahead. Crosby and Laura, can you unmute?
Okay, can you hear me now? Now I've lost you.
Hello?
Can you
Okay, I'm hearing you now.
hear? Okay.
Yes, good morning. No, looking at the alternative routings here, I know that doesn't have to be decided today, but I hope the district and the consultant give careful consideration to using the state parks road in past the day use parking. That's pretty much on dry land, except for a short stretch. It avoids horizontal drilling, doesn't use the Caltrans Highway 1 bridge. It just seems like a really easy way to do it. There's parallel the coast highway up to the state parks driveway into the day use, and that road takes you right across to the to your connection point, and it's on dry land pretty much, easy to inspect, easy to make repairs in the future, and so forth. That just seems like a real good alternative to consider. So thank you.
Like their alternative too, is that what you're saying?
Stephen talked about that.
There's a lot of problems with that too. You gotta go over that bridge.
Okay. Anybody else?
You get the sense that you create.
Okay. I'm good. Okay, so what does everybody think? I think we're supposed to discuss approving, sending this to the finance committee to review for an budget adjustment.
I'll make a motion to move this to the finance committee.
Okay.
Move the recommendation, yeah.
Okay, we have a second from James Webb. So can we have a roll call vote? Derek,
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Okay, it is unanimous that we will go ahead and be forwarding this to the finance committee for a budget. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Nice.
Okay, so we're done for the day, I think, if you have nothing else. A future agenda item,
Welcome aboard, guys.
yeah.
We're not yet, but.
Getting closer.
As I think mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we have strategic plan update where we do every month, where we update the grid and the things that we have been assigned. And Derek, you're part of the committee to discuss the long-term water storage and the water alternatives. So your committee needs to let me know on our meeting July 10th, where you are with that, what you've looked at, and if you've found anything that's feasible.
Sure.
And then the brine waste alternative committee needs to do the same thing. So that when we do the strategic plan update on the first meeting of July for the board, that I can let them know what our progress is. Okay, and then Julie and Mark, you're working on the climate thing, and I have some information for you, so if we can talk after the.
Oh, yeah, I've got some information too. I want to pass them.
Okay, Tina Dickinson has her hand raised. Let me go ahead and let her speak. Go ahead, Tina.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Dean. Well, I thought, as I always thought that these meetings were at 2, so I'd fully anticipated being there, but now the surprise is it's 10 o'clock this morning, so I missed it. I have a couple of questions. Which option out of the 3 did the committee decide on? And then I have another question. If you could answer the first one first, I have another question.
We haven't.
We haven't decided on an alternative. It all depends on the studies and the environmental studies and what's there archaeologically and all of that. Do you want to mention what you told us you had to go through first? Again,
Very similar to what you summarized it well. We've got to look at biology, we've got to look at botanical and archaeological and geotechnical. All of those are going to have and hydraulic constraints. You know, there's a lot of different factors that will weigh into this decision, and we have to wait for those studies.
did you hear his response?
Yes, that they have to go through a whole bunch of studies before anything can be determined. Okay, so my other question was, after reading the GM's monthly letter, he said that at a July board meeting, there will be an item addressing modification of the project description. So I was wondering why that wouldn't come before R and I before July board meeting.
Okay, that was a ad hoc committee project, and it has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. I don't believe we're bringing it before R and I.
No,
We're bringing it directly to the board.
The board ad hoc. committee.
Yeah, the board ad hoc committee worked on it, so it's going to the board from the board ad hoc committee.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I know we did public comment earlier, but she missed it.
Yeah, understood.
So it's fine. Okay, if no one has anything else, and no one has any objections to adjourning, we can go ahead and adjourn. This is a quick meeting.
Yes.
And what time is it?
I've got 10:31.
It is 10:31. We are adjourned. Thank you
Yeah,
so
I'm
much.
Sorry, we're late. We got stuck behind the bus.
Let me figure out how to stop this.
I thought about that.
Yeah,
Like,
it was like this.
Yeah. Yeah. 1%.